My name is Eli. I am 23 years old, and before that morning in the forest, I would have described myself as someone who had his life reasonably under control. I had a small apartment in a mid-sized city. I had a job I was building slowly into something real: environmental consulting, which suited me because I had always preferred trees to people. I had a handful of close friends, a routine that felt comfortable if occasionally suffocating, and a private life that I kept carefully separate from everything else. The private part was this: I was
Hello?
gay.
Hey,
Had known
it's
it since
me.
I was
Oh, hey,
17, had
what's up?
accepted it fully
I
by
need to tell you
19, had been
something.
out to a
Okay, I'm
small and
listening.
trusted circle since 21. My family knew, most of my close friends knew. I was not hiding, I was simply selective, in the way that a lot of gay men are when they grew up in places where being selective was a necessary survival skill. I was also, and this is relevant, completely single. Not dramatically, not painfully, just single in the quiet, ongoing way of someone who had not yet met a person who felt like the right fit. I had dated. There had been a relationship at 20 that lasted 8 months and ended kindly. There had been a handful of smaller, shorter connections since, but nothing that had taken root. Nothing that had made me feel the way I privately believed it was possible to feel, based entirely on the evidence of books and films and the occasional couple I witnessed in a cafe who looked at each other like the rest of the room had ceased to exist. I had begun to wonder in the small hours
So,
of
what do you
certain
do for
nights
work?
whether that
I'm
kind
a
of
driver.
feeling was
You?
something I was
I'm a
capable
mechanic.
of,
I love
whether
working with my
something in
hands.
me was too closed, too cautious, too practiced at keeping things at a careful distance. Then I went on a hunting trip with my best friend's father, and I stopped wondering. My best friend since university was a
This
man
toast is
named Marcus
perfect.
Webb. We had
Glad
met
you
in our
like it.
first week of an
How's the coffee?
environmental
It's
science
great.
degree
Perfect
and had
morning.
become immediately, permanently close in the way that certain friendships simply declare themselves without any particular effort. Marcus was warm and funny and occasionally infuriating and completely loyal, and he was one of the small circle of people who knew everything true about me. Marcus's father was named Thomas Webb. I had met Thomas for the first time at the end of our first university year when Marcus had invited me home for a long weekend. Thomas Webb was, and I registered this immediately and then filed it somewhere I did not intend to revisit, an extraordinarily striking man. He was 41 to my 23. He was tall, with the kind of build that came from actual physical work rather than a gym, broad through the shoulders, lean everywhere else. He had dark hair going silver at the temples in a way that suited him without
Perfect
any
spot for
apparent
lunch.
effort.
The stream is
His
so
hands were the
clear.
hands of
Yeah, the
someone who
water's
spent time
freezing. Great
outdoors,
sandwiches.
weathered and
Thanks. It's so
capable and
peaceful.
very still when they were not doing something. He had green eyes that were quiet and direct, and that seemed to register everything around him with a calm, unhurried intelligence. He worked in land conservation, managing a large private forest reserve about 2 hours from the city. He had grown up in the countryside and returned to it after a marriage that had
Smells
ended
great.
with
Almost
care
done
and
here.
mutual respect when
Perfect.
Marcus was
This needs a
12.
few more
He
minutes.
lived alone in a
All right,
house on the
I'll
edge of the
set the
reserve
table.
he managed.
This stew
He
really
was in
hits the
every
spot.
observable
It
way a
does.
man who had
The bread's
figured out
perfect for
exactly the
dipping.
life he
Glad you
wanted
like it.
and had built
It's a
it
good meal.
quietly and without drama. I had met him perhaps 6 or 7 times over the years. Family dinners at Christmas, a graduation weekend, a brief encounter at a hiking trail that Marcus and I had organized that Thomas happened to be passing through. Each time I saw him, I filed the observation, "This man is remarkable," and then firmly put the file away, because he was my best friend's father, and the idea of anything else was not something I was going to allow myself. Then Marcus called me in October with a proposition. "Dad's doing his annual deer count weekend," Marcus said. "He goes out into the reserve, checks population numbers, maps the trails. He calls it hunting, but he hasn't actually hunted in 10 years. He just likes being out there." He asked if I wanted to come. And I said, "I can't," Marcus said. "I have the conference in Edinburgh, which I've told him 3 times and he keeps forgetting." But he sounded, I don't know, he sounded like he didn't want to go alone this year, which is not like him. And I
I
thought,
need
"You're
you to
the
listen
only person
carefully.
I know who
This
would
is
actually
personal,
enjoy
and it
3
affects
days
us
in a
both.
forest with
Thank
minimal
you for
conversation."
understanding. I have
"That's
carried
almost
this
a
for
compliment,"
longer than I
said.
can remember.
"It was meant as one,"
It is time
Marcus
to
said.
speak it.
"Would you go, keep him company, you know him well enough, he likes you, he always asks about you when I mention you." Something about that
Are you
sentence
certain of
moved
this
through
path?
me before I could stop
am.
it. I set it
It is the
aside.
only way.
"Sure," I said, "I'll go."
It's been a long
There was
road
a short
to get here.
pause. "You
But
said
we're
yes
here now,
very fast,"
together,
Marcus observed.
and that's what matters.
"I like forests," I said. "It's literally my profession." "Right," Marcus said. He sounded like he might be smiling.
The
"That
rain
must
always
be
makes
it."
me reflect. It's been a heavy
Thomas
year.
picked me up
I
at
know. It's
6
been
in the
tough
morning
holding
on a
together,
Friday
but
in
we're
late
here.
October. He
It's been a
arrived
long time since
exactly
I've
on
spoken my
time,
private self
not a minute
aloud.
early, not a minute
It
late,
feels
in a
strange, but
dark green
necessary.
pickup truck that had
I
clearly
need to
been
tell you
used
something
extensively
important.
for its intended
Please
purpose.
listen carefully.
He was wearing a dark jacket and
I've
work
been thinking about
trousers
what
and
you
boots,
said.
and he looked in
And
the gray
I think
early
you're right.
morning
It's
light
time.
outside my
Good. We'll
apartment
face it
building,
together.
exactly as
All
he
right, let's get
always
these carrots
looked,
ready. Okay?
unhurried
Like this?
and completely
Perfect.
at ease
Now
with
for the
himself,
onions?
and
Got it.
slightly
Good.
more than
You're
I
a
was
natural.
prepared for at 6
Watch
in the
how I
morning.
hold the knife.
Eli,
Like
he
this?
said when I came out with my
Perfect.
bag.
You're a natural.
Good of you to come.
Thanks.
Good of you to
I
have me,
appreciate
I
your
said.
honesty. It means a lot.
He took my bag and
Of
put it in
course,
the
it
back
feels
with an
good to be
efficiency
open.
that suggested this was
Definitely.
not a gesture, but simply the obvious thing to do. We got in the truck. He drove. For the first 20 minutes, neither of us said very much, which I had been slightly anxious about in the days leading up to this morning, and which turned out in the actual experience of it to be completely fine. He was a person who was comfortable in silence. So was I. The silence between us was not empty. It had the quality of two people who simply did not need to fill space with noise. Then he put on the
Morning. You're
radio
up early.
something
Sunday's a
instrumental,
good day
low,
for it.
and said,
About
without
Friday.
looking
We're
away
good?
from the
We're
road,
good.
Marcus said,
Beautiful
you
morning
work
after
in
the rain.
environmental
It
consulting.
is. The air feels so crisp.
Trail assessment
Perfect day
mostly,
for a walk.
I said. Impact
The
studies
light
for
is sharp and
development
white today.
projects. I go
Yes,
out
and
into
the
an
lower
area,
trees are still
map what's
golden.
there,
The
write
path is
reports
soft.
about what would be lost if you built something on it. He glanced at me briefly. You like it? I love it, I said
After
honestly.
last night,
the
I'm more
field
certain
part,
than
the
ever.
office part less.
I feel it too. This
The
changes
field part
everything.
is the point, he said. The
Have
rest
you ever
is
felt
just the
drawn
cost
to
of
a
doing
place
it.
like this?
Exactly,
Where the
I
trees
said.
seem to whisper
He nodded.
secrets?
He looked like someone filing
What is
something
your
away
decision?
carefully. We drove for 2 hours.
Hypothesis
The conversation came in
would
easy
proceed.
waves, periods of talk,
Speaking
periods
of
of
truth is
silence,
hard
the
for
radio
someone
underneath
private.
both. He
But in
asked
this
about my
patient
work with a
forest, I
specific
choose to be
knowledgeable
known.
curiosity that made the conversation feel different from the polite interest of someone making time pass. He knew a great deal about forest ecology. He asked good questions. He listened to the answers in the particular way of someone who was genuinely processing what he heard rather than waiting for their turn. I found myself talking more freely than I usually did with someone I did not know well. There was something about his quietness that created space, the way a very still room invites you to speak more honestly
I've been
than a busy
thinking
one.
about this for a while now.
By the time we reached
and
the
I believe
reserve,
this is the
2
best
hours
way
had passed
forward.
in what felt like 40 minutes. The reserve was extraordinary. I had known it would be. Marcus had described it many times, and I had seen
I can't
photographs.
pretend anymore. It's
The
exhausting.
photographs of
I
a
know.
forest are like
We have to
photographs of
face it,
music.
so
They
no more
capture the
holding
shape
back.
but not the experience. The reserve in late October was all gold and copper and deep green, the deciduous trees in their final color before winter,
Standing
the light
here, I
coming through the
realize the
canopy
truth
in
is
long
simpler than I
slanted
thought.
angles that caught
It's
the
about
morning
facing
mist
what's real,
still low
like this
between the
moment.
trunks.
I
Thomas's
appreciate
house
you
was at
taking
the
the
edge of
time.
the reserve, a stone
This
building
means a
not
lot.
large, surrounded on 3 sides by trees and on the 4th by a view
Quiet
across open
afternoon, isn't
land
it?
to distant hills.
Yeah,
It
perfect
was
day for it.
impeccably tidy in the
Look at
way of
that
someone who
sky.
lived alone and had
Beautiful.
made the choice to live well rather than merely practically. There were books everywhere, a wood-burning stove, a kitchen that smelled of coffee and something baked. Outside, a covered porch with 2 chairs looking at the tree line. He showed me to a spare room, simple,
I've been meaning to
clean,
give this
a
to you.
window that looked
Oh,
directly
thanks. What is
into
it?
the forest.
Just a little
I
something.
stood at the window
Enjoy.
for a moment and felt something
Take
in my
this map.
chest ease
It'll guide
that I
you.
had not
Thank you,
known
sir.
was
I
tight.
appreciate it.
Breakfast, he
travels.
said from the doorway. Then we go out. We ate at the kitchen table, eggs, toast, coffee that was very good. We talked about the reserve, its size, its history, the species populations he had been tracking for years. He spoke about the forest the way I had heard very few people speak about anything, with the specific, detailed love of someone who had given their genuine attention to something over a long period of time, and knew it in the way you only know things you have truly paid attention to. I asked questions, he answered them fully without abbreviating or simplifying, and asked questions back. The breakfast stretched an hour
Hello?
longer than it
Hey,
needed
it's
to.
me. Oh, hey.
Then we
what's up?
pulled on boots
I
and
need to tell you
jackets
something.
and went into
Okay,
the
I'm listening.
forest. The first day was about the work, the actual purpose of the weekend. Thomas moved through the forest with a practiced, unhurried efficiency, checking trail cameras, making notes in a small weathered journal, looking for signs with the trained eye of someone who had been doing this for 20 years. I followed and helped and observed, and gradually, as the morning progressed, began to feel the particular kind of quiet that only very old forests create, something between peace and awe, the feeling of being somewhere that existed long before you and will exist long after. We walked for hours. He pointed things out, a deer trail, a badger set, the particular way a certain tree was growing that told a story about the weather patterns of the last decade. He explained things without condescension, with the assumption that I was interested and capable
what do you do
of
for work?
understanding, which
I'm a
I
driver.
was.
You? I'm a
At
mechanic.
midday, we
I
stopped
love working
at a
with my
fallen
hands.
log beside a stream and ate sandwiches he had packed with the same wordless practicality with which he did most things. The stream was very clear and very cold. The trees around us were gold and still. You're
This toast is
comfortable out
perfect.
here, he observed,
Glad you like
not a
it.
question.
How's the coffee? It's
More
great.
than anywhere
Perfect
else,
morning.
I said. He looked at me for a moment. Most people aren't. They think they want to be in a forest and then they get here and the quiet makes them restless. The quiet is the point, I said. He smiled. It was not a wide smile. It was small and genuine, and it changed his face in a way that I observed and then looked away from. Yes, he said, it is. We ate our sandwiches, the stream moved. A bird I could not name made a sound in the trees above us. The afternoon was golden and completely still. I was acutely aware of him sitting beside me on the log, not in a way I allowed myself to examine directly. Just aware, the way you are aware of a particular quality of light or sound that you cannot stop
Perfect
noticing.
spot for lunch. The stream is so
We walked
clear.
back to the
Yeah, the
house
water's
as
freezing.
the light
Great
began to
sandwiches.
drop from the
Thanks.
trees.
It's so peaceful.
He made dinner simple, very good. We ate and talked, and the evening closed around the house, and the fire burned in the stove, and the forest outside the windows went dark and immense. At 10, I said goodnight and went to my room. I lay in the dark and listened to the forest sounds outside the window and tried to organize
Smells
the
great.
inside
Almost
of
done
my
here.
own chest into
Perfect.
something
This needs a few
sensible.
more minutes.
I
All
was
right,
not entirely
I'll set the table.
successful.
This stew really
Saturday
hits the
arrived
spot.
in pale
It does.
gray light
The
and the
bread's
sound
perfect
of
for
rain
dipping.
on the stone
Glad you
roof.
like it. It's a good meal.
Thomas was already in the kitchen when I came down, coffee made, the stove lit against the October chill, a calm domesticity to the morning that felt entirely natural and slightly dangerous. He was standing at the kitchen window with his mug, looking out at the rain-darkened trees, and he did not hear me come in immediately, and I had a moment of watching him unobserved. The set of his shoulders, the complete stillness of him, the way he looked at the forest like it was something he was in an ongoing conversation with. Then he heard my footstep and turned, and his expression was easy and open, no performance of surprise. Rain, he said. I noticed, I said. Good tracking day, he said. Animals move differently in rain, leave clearer signs. He poured me a coffee without asking. We'll go out in an hour. We went out in the rain. He had good waterproofs and had thought to bring an extra set in my size, which told me something about the
I
kind
need
of
you to
person
listen
who was
carefully.
quietly prepared,
This is
practically
personal,
considerate,
and it
no
affects us
performance of the
both.
consideration.
Thank you for
We walked
understanding.
deeper into the reserve
I
than we
have
had gone the
carried this
previous
for
day,
longer than I
following
can
trails
remember.
that became less defined the further we
It
went.
is time to
The
speak
trees
it.
older and larger, the canopy thicker above us so that the rain became a soft sound above rather than a presence around us. He was quieter today, not
you certain of
withdrawn,
this path?
present, attentive,
I am.
pointing things out,
It is
but
the
with
only
something
way.
underneath the quiet that was different
It's
from
been a long
yesterday,
road to get here.
a thoughtfulness,
But we're here
a
now,
sense of something
together,
being held
and that's
carefully.
what matters.
I noticed it. I noticed most things about him, which was the problem. There was a tree deep in the reserve that he had
The rain
clearly
always
been
makes me
heading
reflect.
toward,
It's
though
been a
he had
heavy
not
year.
said so,
I know.
a
It's
great
been
old
tough holding
oak,
it together.
enormous,
But
with a
we're
trunk
here.
so wide that three
It's been a long
people with
time since
linked
I've spoken
hands
my
could
private
not have
self aloud.
circled it. It stood
It
in a
feels
small
strange, but
natural
necessary.
clearing, the rain soft above
I
it,
need to
the
tell you
light
something
particular and
important.
gray and beautiful.
Please listen
He
carefully.
stopped in front of it and looked up.
I've been
How
thinking
old?
about
I
what you
asked.
said.
Best
And I
estimate,
think you're right. It's
400
time.
years, he
Good.
said.
We'll
Give
face
or
it
take
together.
20 years
All right,
either
let's get these
side.
carrots ready.
He put his
Okay,
hand
like
against
this?
the bark.
Perfect.
I
Now
come
for the
here
onions?
every
Got
time
it.
I'm out.
Good.
I don't know
You're a natural.
exactly why. It just seems
Watch how I
important
hold the
to
knife.
check in.
Like this?
I looked at the tree.
Perfect. You're a
400
natural.
years.
Thanks.
This tree had been here
I appreciate
before
your
any
honesty.
of the
It means a
roads,
lot.
before the towns,
Of course,
before
it feels good
almost
to be open.
everything that I thought of as
Definitely.
the world. It was completely indifferent to me, and I found that deeply comforting. Marcus has never come out this far, Thomas said. He loses interest about 2 miles in. His attention is better in cities, I agreed. Yes, a pause, he was still looking at the tree. You're not like him, I noticed that years ago. We're very different, I said. He told me, he stopped. He began again carefully.
Morning.
He
You're up
mentioned
early.
some time ago
Sunday's
that
a
you
good day
were,
for
that
it.
you preferred.
About Friday.
He stopped
We're good?
again.
We're good.
The rain moved
Beautiful
softly
morning
in
after the
canopy
rain.
above us.
It
I
is.
waited.
The air feels so
I'm
crisp.
sorry, he
Perfect
said.
day for a
That's
walk.
not my business to bring up.
The light is sharp
It's
and
all
white
right,
today.
I said. My voice
Yes,
was
and the
very
lower trees
even.
are still
He
golden.
told you I was
The path
gay.
is soft.
A brief pause. Yes, he said. I hope that's not. It's fine, I said. I don't mind Marcus's father knowing.
After last
Marcus
night, I'm
knows
more certain than
comfortable
ever.
with who knows.
I feel it too. This
He
changes
nodded. He
everything.
was still looking at the oak.
Have
I
you ever
only
felt
mention
drawn
it
to a
because
place like
he
this,
stopped a third
where the
time,
trees
and I
seem to
noticed
whisper
that this was
secrets?
unusual for him. He was
What is your
generally a
decision?
man who finished his sentences.
My path
Because, I said.
we proceed.
He turned and looked at
Speaking
me.
of truth is
His
hard for
green
someone
eyes
private.
were steady and
But in
very
this patient
direct,
forest,
the way
I
they
choose to be
always
known.
were. But there was something in them today that was different, something that had the quality of a decision being made in real time. Because I wanted you to know, he said carefully, that I understand what it is to keep something private for a long time. and to not be entirely sure what to do with it. The clearing was very still. The rain was the only sound. "Thomas," I said quietly. "I'm 51 years old," he said. Then
I've
he
been
corrected
thinking
himself.
about this for a
41,
while now,
He stopped,
and I believe
exhaled.
this is the
"I've been
best way
41 for
forward.
3 months and I still say 51. A very small, self-deprecating sound. "The point is that I am significantly older than you and I am
I
my
can't
son's
pretend
friend's
anymore. It's
father,
exhausting.
and there is
I
nothing
know.
about what I am
We
about
have
to
to face
say
it,
that is
so
uncomplicated."
no more holding back.
My heart was doing something I could not control. "What are you about to say?" I asked. He looked at me. "That I have been
Standing
aware
here,
of
I
you," he
realize the
said
truth is
carefully,
simpler than
"in a
I
way that
thought.
I have found
It's
difficult
about
to account
facing
for
what's real
every time
at
I
this
have been
moment.
around you, for longer than
I
I'm
appreciate
comfortable
you
admitting.
taking the
And I
time.
brought you here this weekend
This
because,"
means
he
a lot.
paused, "because Marcus was unavailable, which was true. But
Quiet
also because when he
afternoon, isn't
told
it?
me he couldn't come and
Yeah,
asked if
perfect
I
day
had
for it.
anyone else in
Look
mind,
at that
the only
sky.
name I thought of
Beautiful.
was yours. And I knew why, and I didn't entirely trust myself to be honest about why, and so here we are." The old oak stood around us, 400 years of indifference, the rain soft and constant above.
I've been meaning to
"Thomas,"
give
I
this to
said
you.
again.
Oh,
"You
thanks. What
don't
is it?
have to say anything,"
Just a little
he
something.
said quickly.
Enjoy.
"I am aware this is."
Take this map.
"I
It'll guide
noticed
you.
you too,"
Thank you,
I
sir. I
said.
appreciate it.
"Every time for
Safe
years
travels.
I put it somewhere I was not supposed to look." He went very still. "I am 23 and you are my best friend's father," I said. "Those things are both true, and none of that changed what I noticed." He looked at me for a long, slow moment, the kind of moment that contains a great deal. "Eli," he said. "I know," I said. "This is." "I know," I said again. We stood on either side of the complexity of it, in the rain, in the old clearing, and neither of us said anything for a while. But neither
Hello?
of us walked away either.
Oh, hey.
We
What's
walked
up?
back through the forest in the rain, not
Okay, I'm
speaking
listening.
very much. But something had been said, and it was in the air between us now, not pressed down or managed, just present and real and needing to be lived with for a while before it could be anything else. Back at the house, he made tea. We sat at the kitchen table with the rain on the windows and the stove warm and the afternoon going dark around the house, and we talked, but differently now. More carefully, more honestly, like two people who have agreed that the usual surface of things is not where this conversation needs to live. He told me about himself, the parts I had not known. He had understood something about himself in his mid-30s, something that had rearranged his understanding of his own life without invalidating any of it. His marriage had ended for reasons more mutual and complex than that single thing, and they had managed it well, and Marcus had never been anything but cherished.
So, what do you do for work?
Understanding of
I'm
himself,
a driver. You?
he had kept it
I'm a
private,
mechanic.
in the
I
way
love
of a
working with
man
my
who had
hands.
grown up in a place and time where private had felt like the only option, and who had gotten so used to private that it had simply become the air he breathed. "Have you ever?" I started. "No," he said simply,
This
"not in
toast is
any real
perfect.
way, in a way
Glad
that
you like
meant
it.
something."
How's the coffee?
He looked at
It's
his
great.
mug.
Perfect morning.
"I have not been brave enough for a long time to let it mean something." I thought about that, about bravery in private and the cost of keeping true things in locked rooms. "What made this weekend different?" I asked. He looked at me. "You," he said simply. We made dinner together that evening, his kitchen, his recipe, my helping hands that were slightly less expert than his. We worked side by side at the counter, and the domesticity of it was something I was very careful not to examine too directly because it felt too good, too right, too much like something I had not known I was missing. We ate, we talked, the fire burned, the rain continued outside. At some point in the evening, without it being a dramatic moment, I told him about my own private years, the years of
Perfect
knowing
spot
and
for lunch. The
managing and
stream
being
is so clear.
selective and keeping
Yeah, the water's
truest
freezing.
version of
Great
myself
sandwiches.
in a folder
Thanks.
that
It's
not
so peaceful.
everyone had access to. He listened with the full, patient attention he gave to everything. "You seem very clear about yourself," he said. "I've had some time with it," I said. "It gets clearer." "Does it feel lonely?" he asked. "The selectivity." I thought about it honestly. "Sometimes," I said, "less than it used to."
Smells great. Almost done
"What
here.
changed?"
Perfect.
I
This needs a
stopped
few more
thinking
minutes.
the privacy
All right,
was protection,
I'll set the table.
I said.
This
I
stew
started
really hits the
thinking
spot.
of it as just
It
delay.
does. The bread's
He
perfect for
absorbed
dipping.
that carefully.
Glad you like it.
"Delay,"
It's a
he
good meal.
repeated. "Of being fully known," I said, "which is the thing that matters, being known by the right people." He looked at me across the table with those quiet green eyes. "You're very young to know that," he said. "You're very not young to be learning it," I said. He laughed, a real, surprised laugh that I had not heard from him before. It changed him completely. It made him look younger and more open and completely real. "Fair," he said, "that is completely fair." I woke on Sunday to no rain. The clouds had gone overnight and the forest outside my window was sharp and clear in the cold morning light, every color more vivid for being washed, the air through the slightly open window carrying the particular smell of wet earth and cold trees. I lay for a while and thought about the 2 days, about everything said and unsaid, about the man in the kitchen below me who was 41 and quiet and who had
I need you
used
to
the
listen
word
carefully.
brave about himself
This is
in a way
personal
that had
and it
made my
affects us
chest
both.
ache.
Thank you for
I thought about what I
understanding.
wanted.
I have
Clearly,
carried this
carefully,
for
the way you
longer
think
than
about
I can
things that matter
remember.
enough to think about honestly.
It is
I
time
was
to
23
speak
and he
it.
was 41 and he was Marcus's father, and all of those things were true and real and complicated. And also true, I had never in my life been in the presence of someone who made me
Are
feel
you
so
certain of
completely
this
seen
path?
without any effort on either of
I
our
am.
parts. I had never
is
had
the only way.
conversations that moved this freely and honestly in this
It's
short
been a
time.
long road to get here.
I had never
But
been
we're here
so
now,
aware of another
together,
person
and
in a
that's what
way that was
matters.
both physical and something much larger and harder to name. I got up, I went downstairs. He was at the
rain
window
always makes
again
me
with his
reflect.
coffee.
It's been a heavy
He
year.
turned when he heard
I know.
me.
It's been
His
tough holding
expression was
together.
open
But
and
we're here.
unhurried.
It's been a
Clear,
long
he
time
said.
since I've spoken my private
"I saw,"
self
I
aloud.
said. He
It
poured
feels
my
strange, but
coffee.
necessary.
I took it. We stood at the window
I need to
side
tell
by
you something
side looking at the
important.
washed, brilliant
Please
forest.
listen carefully.
I want to go back to the oak, I said.
I've been thinking about what
He
you
looked at me
said.
sideways.
And
Yes,
I
he
think you're
said.
right. It's time.
We walked to
Good.
the old
We'll
tree
face it
in the
together.
morning light
All
without
right, let's
the
get these
rain,
carrots
without
ready.
the gray,
Okay,
without
like this.
anything between
Perfect.
us
Now
and
for
the
the onions.
clarity of
Got it. Good.
The
You're a
forest
natural.
was extraordinary
Watch
after
how
the
I hold the
overnight
knife.
rain. Everything
Like this?
intensified, the
Perfect.
smells
You're a
deeper,
natural.
the colors
Thanks.
richer, the light coming
I
through the
appreciate your
branches in
honesty. It
clean
means a
white
lot.
angles.
Of course, it
We
feels
did
good to
not
be
talk
open.
much on the walk.
Definitely.
We walked side by side, close enough that our arms occasionally brushed. Neither of us moved apart. When we reached the clearing and the great oak, we stopped. The morning light fell across the ancient bark in long, warm angles. Everything was still and clear. I want to ask you something, I said. Ask, he said. What do you want? I said. Not what's complicated, not what the reasons against are. I know
Morning.
those and
You're
so
up
do
early.
you. What do you
Sunday's
actually
a good day
want?
for it.
He
About
looked at
Friday.
the tree
We're good?
for a long
We're good.
moment. Then he turned
Beautiful
and
morning
looked at
after the
me.
rain.
His green
It
eyes
is.
were
The air
completely
feels so
steady.
crisp. Perfect
I
day
want to
for a
know
walk.
you properly, he said. Not as
The light
Marcus's
is sharp
friend,
and
not
white
as a
today.
weekend guest. I want,
Yes,
he
and the
stopped.
lower trees are
Began
still
again.
golden.
I have been
The path
careful
is
and
soft.
private and practical for a very long time, and you are the first person in a very long time who has made me feel like being careful is costing me something real. He paused.
After last
I want
night,
to
I'm
find
more
out what
certain
this
than
is,
ever.
honestly, whatever
I feel
it
it
is,
too.
without
This changes
pretending
everything.
it isn't there. The clearing
Have
was
you ever
very
felt
still.
drawn to
The
a
light
place
was
like
warm
this,
on the old bark.
where the trees seem to
That's what
whisper
I want too,
secrets?
I said. He looked
What
at
is
me
your
for a
decision?
long, certain moment. Then he
My
reached
thought
out and
advises
put his
you.
hand over
We
mine
proceed.
where it rested against my
Speaking
side.
the truth is
Just
hard for
held
someone
it,
private.
warm and
But
sure
in this
and
patient
completely
forest, I
deliberate.
choose to be known.
We stood like that in the clearing with the old tree around us for a while. Just that, just the beginning of something held carefully. We walked back slowly, and somewhere on the trail between the oak and the house, I said, Marcus. Yes, he said. He had been thinking about it too, I could tell. He's my closest friend, I said. I know, he said. He's my son. This is complicated, I said. Yes, he said.
I've been
I know.
thinking about this for a
How do you
while
want to
now,
handle it?
and I believe this
He was
is the
quiet
best
for
way
a few
forward.
steps. Honestly, he said, and not immediately. We don't know yet what this is. It would be unfair to Marcus to present him with something before
I
we
can't pretend
understand it
anymore. It's
ourselves.
exhausting.
He
I know.
glanced at me.
We have to
But I
face
don't
it,
want to keep
so no
something
more
from
holding
him
back.
indefinitely. He deserves to know the truth of his father. He does, I agreed. He also, I paused. He's more
Standing here,
perceptive
I
than he
realize
lets
the truth
on.
is
He
simpler
called
than
me
I thought.
specifically for this
It's about
weekend.
facing what's
He
real,
said you
like
liked
this
me and
moment.
asked about me.
I appreciate you
Thomas
taking the
looked at the
time.
trail ahead. He did.
This means
he
a lot.
said. Do you think he knew? I asked.
Quiet
Pause.
afternoon, isn't it?
I think,
Yeah,
Thomas said
perfect day for it.
carefully, that Marcus
that
is the
sky.
kind of person
Beautiful.
who creates conditions and then lets people arrive at their own conclusions. He always has been. A small, warm, complicated smile. He gets it from his mother. I thought about Marcus on the phone, saying he always asks about
I've been
you.
meaning to give this
I
to
thought
you.
about the speed
Oh,
with
thanks.
which
What
he
is
had
it?
offered the trip.
Just a little something.
I thought about
Enjoy.
him saying you said yes very
Take this
fast
map.
and the
It'll
note
guide
in his
you.
voice that
Thank
I
you,
had
sir. I
filed
appreciate
but
it.
not examined.
Safe travels.
He might not be as surprised as we think, I said. No, Thomas agreed, he might not. We spent the last afternoon of the weekend in the forest and then at the house, packing slowly, the time having a different quality knowing it was ending. We made tea. We sat on the porch in the cold, clear air looking at the tree line. The silence was comfortable and full, the way silences are between people who have said true things. I need to tell you something, I said. Tell me, he said. I've dated before, I said. Not many people, not for very long,
Hello?
and none of it has
Hey,
felt.
it's me.
I looked for the
Oh,
word.
hey, what's
None
up?
of it has
I
felt
need
like
to
this
tell you
felt,
something.
even
Okay,
just
I'm
talking,
listening.
even just the last 2 days. I looked at him. I don't know what to do with that information yet, but I wanted to say it. He looked at me with those steady green eyes. I know, he said, I feel it too. You're not frightened by it, I asked. Terrified, he said, and also, he paused, also clearer than I have been about anything in a very long time. I looked at the forest. The light was going amber. The trees were doing their late afternoon thing, the shadows long and the colors deep. I'll drive back to the city, I said, and we'll figure out what this is, slowly, honestly. Slowly, he agreed, and Marcus. When we know what to say, I said. When we know what to say, he agreed. We sat on the porch until the light was fully gone. Then we went inside and I finished packing.
So,
and he loaded
what do you
the
do for
truck,
work?
And we ate a
I'm a
last
driver.
simple
You?
dinner in the
I'm a
warm
mechanic.
kitchen,
I
and
love
neither
working
of
with
us
my
said
hands.
anything that was not exactly true. He drove me back in the morning. 4 hours, the same road, the same truck, the same radio low, but different in every way that the inside of a thing can be different while the
This toast is
outside stays
perfect.
the same.
Glad you like it.
We
How's the
talked
coffee?
more
It's
easily
great.
than the
Perfect
drive
morning.
up, less carefully, less measuring. We had arrived over 2 days at a fluency with each other that usually takes much longer, which I thought said something about the quality of attention we had both been paying. He pulled up outside my apartment building. He turned off the engine. Neither of us moved immediately. Eli, he said. Thomas, I said. Thank you for coming, he said, not in the polite way, in the real way. Thank you for asking, I said, not through Marcus, the real asking. He looked at me. I'll call, he said. I'll answer, I said. I got out and got my bag from the back and stood on the pavement. He had rolled down the window. The morning was cold and clear. One thing, he said.
Perfect spot for lunch. The
What?
stream is so clear.
Marcus
Yeah, the
called
water's
me
freezing.
after you
Great
confirmed
sandwiches.
you were
Thanks.
coming.
It's so
he said.
peaceful.
He said, and I'm telling you this because I think you'll find it useful, he said. Just be honest with each other, Dad. It's easier than you think. I stood on the pavement with my bag. I thought about Marcus, about my closest friend who had handed me a weekend in a forest with his father and said be honest with each other
Smells
before
great.
anything
Almost done
had
here.
even officially
Perfect.
begun.
This needs a few more minutes.
He knew, I said.
All right, I'll set the
He
table.
knew, Thomas said.
This stew really
and the
hits the
corner
spot.
of his mouth
It
moved
does.
in that small,
The bread's perfect for
genuine
dipping.
smile.
Glad you like it.
I shook
It's a
my
good meal.
head, laughing slightly. I'll talk to him, I said. So will I, he said. He drove away. I stood and watched the truck until it turned at the end of the street. Then I went inside and sat in my apartment and called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. How was it, he said before I could speak. You knew, I said. A pause, then without any pretense, I hoped, he said. Is it okay, are you okay? Yes, I said, I think I'm more than okay. Good, he said, and his voice was warm and genuine and completely unsurprised. He's a good man, Eli. He's always been a good man. He just never had anyone who could see it the way you do. I sat in my apartment with my phone and my bag still on the floor and the morning light coming through the window, and I felt something settle in my chest that had been looking for somewhere to land for a very long time. Thomas called that Thursday. We talked
I
for an
need you to
hour.
listen
He
carefully.
called again the
This is
following
personal,
Tuesday
and it affects
the
us
one
both.
after that.
Thank you for
He
understanding.
drove to the city
I have
3
carried
weeks
this
later.
for longer than
we
I
walked
can
in a
remember.
park in November rain and
It
had
is time
dinner
to
in a
speak
small
it.
restaurant and talked the way we talked in the forest, honestly, without performing anything. He was the same person outside the forest that
Are
he
you
had been
certain of
inside
this
it.
path?
That mattered more
I
than
am.
I could easily explain.
way.
I told my close friends, the
been a
ones who
long
knew
road
me
to get
fully,
here.
each
we're here
reaction was
now,
its own thing.
together,
Most
and
said
that's what
some version
matters.
of, whatever this is, you seem different, lighter. Marcus and Thomas had their conversation. I do not know
The rain
all the
always makes me
details, it was
reflect. It's
theirs
been
to
a heavy
have.
year.
What
I know.
Marcus
It's been
told
tough
me the
holding
week
together,
after was
but
simply
we're
this.
here.
I love my dad.
It's been a long time
I've been
since I've
wanting him
spoken
to
my
be
private
happy
self
for
aloud.
a long time. Whatever this
feels
is,
strange,
I think
but
it
necessary.
might be that. That was
I need
everything.
to tell you something
That was more
important.
than I could have asked for.
Please listen carefully.
Thomas came to the city again in December.
I've been thinking
He brought
about
the
what you
dark
said,
green notebook.
and
I
I
showed
think
him
you're
my
right.
private
It's time.
design folder,
Good.
the
We'll
work
face
I
it
had made
together.
for myself and
All right, let's get
nobody
these
else.
carrots ready.
We
Okay,
sat
like
side
this?
by side at
Perfect.
my desk
Now for
and
the
went
onions?
through both
Got it. Good.
genuinely
You're a
the way
natural.
you look at the inside
Watch
of
how I
someone's
hold the
mind
knife.
when they trust you with
Like
it.
this?
It was
Perfect.
cold
You're a
outside and
natural.
warm inside,
Thanks.
and the city was doing its
I
December
appreciate
thing.
your honesty.
Lights
It means a
everywhere,
lot.
the year ending.
Of course,
A
it
particular
feels good to
feeling of
be
something
open.
closing and something else
Definitely.
beginning. He was 41 and I was 23, and the distance between those numbers was real and would always be real, and was also, in the actual experience of who we were to each other, much less significant than I had feared. One evening in January, we went back to the forest. The reserve was completely different in winter, bare and stark and extraordinary, the structure of the trees visible now that the leaves were gone, the architecture of it. We walked to the old oak. It stood
Morning.
the same,
You're up
enormous,
early.
indifferent,
Sunday's a good day
400
for it.
years and counting.
Friday. We're good?
Thomas put
We're
his
good.
hand on the bark.
Beautiful
"I
morning
think
after
this
the
is
rain.
where it started,"
It
he
is.
said.
The air feels so
"In the
crisp.
rain," I said.
Perfect day for a walk.
"In the rain," he agreed. He
The
looked
light
at
is
me.
sharp and
"I'm
white
glad
today.
I said the true thing."
Yes, and the lower trees are
"I'm
still
glad you
golden.
did too," I
The
said.
path is soft.
He reached over and took my hand. We stood at the foot of the old tree in the January cold, the bare forest around us,
After
the
last
sky
night, I'm
white
more
above,
certain than
and the
ever.
whole quiet
I
world
feel it
we
too.
had
This
found our
changes
way
everything.
to, honest and complicated and entirely
Have you ever felt drawn
ours.
to a place like
And
this,
that is where part
where the
one of the
trees
story
seem to
ends.
whisper secrets?
But they are just beginning.
What is your
What
decision?
happened when Eli met Thomas at a family
path
dinner
guides
for the
me.
first time
We
as
proceed.
something more than Marcus's friend?
Speaking of truth is
What
hard
did
for someone
Marcus say
private.
when he saw them
But in this
together?
patient
And what was
forest,
the
I choose to
moment
be known.
3 months in that neither of them will ever forget? Should I tell you part 2? If you want it, comment below part 2. If this story moved you, please like it. It helps more people find stories like this one. And subscribe, because there are more true stories here waiting for you. For anyone carrying something true and private, this story was for you. The forest is always there. The quiet is always there.
I've been
And
thinking about
sometimes in
this
the
for a
right
while
place at the
now,
right time,
and I
so
believe
the
this
right
is the best
person.
way forward.